I know your life on earth was trouble, and only you could know the pain.
One of the most lauded figures in country music, Vince Gill is now a household name. With an impressive 22 Grammys and 18 CMAs to his name, he has had quite the career. But now, at the age of 67, Vince Gill has spoken up, and believe me when I say this changes everything. There are a few who are rejoicing. Many are taken aback, and others are even wondering why he waited so long to make this statement. Stay with me because I guarantee that at the conclusion of this, you will feel one of three emotions: astonishment, relief, or a whole different impression of Vince Gill. Alright, let's dive in. An examination of Eagles membership grounded in reality. Music seemed to be in Vince and Grant Gill's blood from the moment they were born. It was as if his fate had been planned from the day he took up that small tenor guitar with 4 strings when he was a little boy. Obviously, he quickly progressed to a full-size 6-string, because, let's be honest, some individuals are simply destined to play. His parents also noticed it. Providing him with toy guitars wasn't the end of it. Not at all, they were well aware that their son has exceptional talent. They spared no expense and acquired a Gibson ES335 for him when he was 10 years old. This was an exceptional electric guitar befitting a child of his exceptional aptitude. His path as a musician was often on the move in an instant. When he was a little townie with a passion for strings, who would have thought that he would stand on stage as a member of one of the most iconic rock bands of all time? One of life's most surprising turns for Vince Gill occurred following the 2016 death of Glenn Frey. They dismissed it as idle chatter. The truth, they declared, would remain hidden forever. To put an end to the decades-long speculation, Vince Gill is now speaking up at the age of 67. Although some are elated, others are devastated, and the music business could never be the same. Tell me what he disclosed. For how long did he remain silent? This is going to be a much larger deal than everyone anticipated, so stay tuned. You would recall the air of uncertainty if you were an Eagles fan at the time. There was more about Glenn Frey than meets the eye. He was an indispensable co-founder, vocalist on some of their most popular songs, and a legend in his own right. Don Henley has come clean about the fact that, without the original band member, the band simply could not perform. To be honest, I don't blame him. To lose a band member is one thing, but to lose the group's heart and soul is something else entirely. It's not the same type of sadness. At one point, it appeared the Eagles would never recover. However, unanticipated discussions were taking on behind the scenes, and Destiny had other ideas. Now we have Vince Gill. Let me get this straight. He didn't decide to join the Eagles out of the blue. No, there was something more substantial at work here, something that was developing subtly. The ball really began to roll when Irvin Azoff, the management of the band, contacted Larry Fitzgerald, the manager of Vince. And now for something fascinating. Few people understood the extent to which Vince was involved with the band. Upon the first split of the Eagles, he and Glenn Frey were both managed by the same person. It's as if these seemingly unrelated elements had been building up to this point. Even with that link, Vince still didn't anticipate a formal invitation. Actually, he was totally caught unawares. You can't just fantasize about it and want it, he said in hindsight. However, he wasted no time seizing the chance. His usual silky smoothness shone through the second they inquired. So, when exactly are we going? Feel the rush without second-guessing or pondering. Because, come on, you don't play coy when the Eagles invite you to join them. Sure, I'll take my guitar and hit the road. But joining the Eagles or any other band isn't as easy as just turning up and jamming. Among rock music's all-time greats, these songs rank high. That was something that Vince was well aware of. Instead of coming in and shaking things up, he stayed out. He wished to pay tribute to the heritage. He was meticulous in his approach to their collection, picking out songs that were a natural fit for his performance style. And he certainly didn't choose the simple ones. Lion Eyes, To Kill a Sunrise, Take It to the Limit, and A New Kid in Town were among the classics that he tackled. Melodies that many listeners cherish forever. It clicked for him. He could see these weren't just melodies. All of a person's life's experiences were encapsulated in those songs. Legendary lines, legendary backdrops, and the rest of what made those recordings so well arranged would be lost on me if I didn't hear those tunes. Because he didn't want to dilute their original arrangements, which, as he noted, was what made songs special, he vowed to perform them note for note. His relationship with Don Henley is another factor. Finding a man with musical abilities wasn't the only consideration here. Fortunately, Vincent Henley and I had previously established a musical rapport prior to the formation of the Eagles, so we knew the chemistry would be perfect. They already had that level of trust from their time working together on Henley's Cass County record. Actually, Henley had the ideal response when asked why the Eagles would recruit a country singer he knows how to play in a band. For Vince, that was really meaningful. He wasn't attempting to steal the show or emulate Glenn Frey when he signed on with the Eagles. All he wanted was to make a little noise, play the music, and show some appreciation for what others had done. His statement, "I don't have to have the attention," was spot on. The attention doesn't need to be on me. His attitude was precisely what made him a great match. He had an emotional debut performance with the band in 2017 at Dodger Stadium. And he wasn't the only one, son of Glenn. Being there with him was a wonderful and tragic experience for Deacon Fry, who was also putting himself in his father's shoes. Its weight was apparent. Rather from being a routine performance, this was a watershed moment that represented the band's future while honoring its legacy. Where does Vince stand? That had hit him. This, he realized, had nothing to do with him. The idea was to preserve these tunes for an extended period of time. Now, in the present day, Vince is still performing on the Eagles' final tour, which is scheduled to conclude in 2025. From strumming a guitar as a little child to performing with the Eagles on stage in front of tens of thousands of people is a remarkable journey. To be honest, only music can compose such a tale. Long a man who has let his music do the talking, Vince Gill is now addressing the suspicions that have dogged him for years. His confirmation at the age of 67 confirms what many had assumed, but none was ready for the reality. Fans are in disbelief, the country music business might never see him the same way, and the world of country music is abuzz. Hold on tight, for this discovery is going to rock the boat. Amy Grant and her married life. The romance between Vince Gill and Amy Grant is so idyllic that it could only have been written by a fairy tale author. In 1993, while shooting Christmas with Vince Gill in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it all began. Let me tell you, this wasn't your average holiday special. It was the exact time when fate brought them together in the most magical, unexpected way imaginable. The evening welcomed Amy, a massive star in her own right, as a special guest performance. What would it be like? In the same room, two extraordinarily gifted musicians. There was an electric energy between them the moment they met. That was such a vivid event in Vince's memory. As soon as Amy entered the practice room, the attractive Vince saw her wrinkled forehead, which he likely mistook for a sign of anxiety. And his actions? "Hey, unravel that brow," he said as he approached her. "It will work out." Easy, isn't it? There was something about that instant, though. The scene is easily imaginable. Her magnetic presence had already grabbed Vince, but he saw something else that really set her apart. Its grin. Despite this, they became closer via music. It was the binding agent. That same year, they collaborated at 3 Christmas parties before Amy requested Vince to record their debut duet, House of Love. What makes that so unique? They got to play music together, and that duet was the seed that eventually grew into something much larger. Still no. They remained dedicated to their spouses despite this attraction. Amy was wed to Christian musician Gary Chapman, while Vince remained married to country singer Janice Oliver. There was no sense in their haste. Even though their chemistry was obvious to everyone, they were still faithful to their promises. The excitement was tangible, as Amy would later acknowledge. And you could sense it, couldn't you? There was no denying the attraction between them. However, they were making an effort to maintain a polite tone. Making an honest effort to handle things while knowing that, let's be honest, not everyone was on board with their view. From 1993 until 1999, Vince and Amy had a rough go of it. Those lengthy years were Amy's fault. Quite rightly, too. Their complex relationship was heightened by an attraction and a connection. Nonetheless, I bet it was no picnic. Knowing it was the correct thing to do and being unable to act on something so genuine, I respected the limitations they established. Still, every region of the globe saw things differently. They were both subjected to a great deal of criticism because most people thought the worst of them. What hurt, according to Vince's reflection on the statement, was that most people thought the worst of us, which was unfair and wrong. Then again, isn't that the way? People making assumptions without fully comprehending the situation. However, they choose not to be impacted by it. Even though the attraction between them was intensifying daily, they just maintained their honesty. After then, things progressed slowly but surely, as life does. For Amy, the news of Vince's divorce in 1997 was shocking. She was taken aback by the suddenness of the event, which likely intensified her sense of reality. By 1999, Amy's own marriage had also begun to deteriorate. Even before they were married for 17 years, she had said that her marriage to Gary was difficult. For her, it was a difficult period. She and Vince were finally able to be together without any obstacles in that moment. Amy wasted no time after her divorce confirming her relationship with Vince. They went public with their engagement only 4 months later. Then everything started to click for them. Thus, they were married in a picturesque outdoor wedding close to Nashville in March of 2000. With only 100 attendees, including their children, it was a small, private wedding. It worked well because they didn't try to push it. Incredibly, Vince and Amy's romance began as a 1993 Christmas special and has since evolved into a lasting friendship. It's evidence that fortune favors the unexpected and that, at times, all it takes is a dose of patience to let things unfold as they will. Everything clicks into place when the timing is perfect. Even legendary performers aren't safe from speculations, and Vince Gill's career is one of the most lauded in music history. After years of speculation, he has now spoken out at the age of 67 to confirm what many have suspected. There has been an enormous response. While some are taken aback, others feel validated, and still others have more questions than answers. Could you tell me the truth? Join us to discover the answer. Assisting Amy in her fight against health issues? Despite all the highs and lows in their love story, the health struggles that Vince Gill and Amy Grant endured together truly challenged their connection. I mean, come on, when life throws you a curveball, it doesn't do it softly, it hurls you full force. While Vince was in for his annual physical, his doctor, perhaps wanting to be on the safe side, recommended that Amy do the same. Who would have imagined that such a seemingly little proposal could completely upend their lives? However, it is precisely what transpired. Doctors found that Amy had a rare congenital heart condition called PAPVR when she went in for testing. Does it sound difficult? Indeed, that is the case. Only around 1 in 143 persons are impacted by this illness. The most terrifying aspect? Without realizing it, she had been carrying it around her whole life. Just picture yourself being taken aback by such unexpected news. This wasn't a generic, could use some medication scenario. The doctor warned her directly that a catastrophe may occur if she did not receive treatment. What would it be like to hear that? Always the one to show strength, Amy. Not a problem for me, but I bet Vince's heart plummeted. After much deliberation, Amy decided to go through with open heart surgery in June of 2020, despite the fact that hospitals were the last places anybody wanted to go during the epidemic. Let's take a moment to consider it. Open heart surgery. That isn't a quick and easy operation that will have you walking again in a week. You can't play around with this. The extra burden of COVID-19 made everything 10 times harder, as if the operation weren't already difficult enough. Vince, being the kind husband that he is, longed to be there for her, but hospital regulations severely limited his visits. Just think about it, you're a husband, and your wife is going through a terrible event, but you can't be there for her. After what seemed like an eternity and an anxious wait, he was eventually granted permission to enter her room. Fortunately, the epidemic had cleared his whole performance schedule, so at least there was some good news among all the chaos. That left him with no choice except to be physically present with Amy. He remained there precisely because life is full of surprises. Just when they thought things were getting easier, something unexpected happened. Now we're in July of 2022. Another catastrophe arose without warning. Amy had been riding her bike peacefully along a golf club when she careened off the road and went flying after hitting a pothole. While it's true that most of us have fallen off our bikes, this wasn't your average "I fell down and got back up" scenario. Although she was using a helmet, it was insufficient to prevent her catastrophic brain damage. Without hesitation, Vince canceled 3 shows immediately after she was brought to the hospital. Being by Amy's side was the most important thing. Making a full recovery was no picnic. Doctors predicted that her brain would take 12 to 18 months to completely recover from the injury, which had an impact on her memory. Can you fathom the thought? Feeling like you're forgetting things? Having trouble with even the most basic task of remembering a recent discussion, and that's saying something. She then underwent procedures to remove a cyst from her neck and then her shoulder. Everything happened in rapid succession. However, Vince remained at her side throughout. In the midst of the storm, he was her anchor. "Everything happens to everyone, all you can do is live each day to the fullest," he kept telling her. "We've made it this far, and my heart hurts for you." Those were the phrases that kept her going at times. Hearing him repeated day after day helped her get through it, she said later. Knowing that someone will always have your back makes a world of difference when life throws you a curveball. The beautiful voice and deeply felt lyrics of Vince Gill have captivated listeners for decades. But whispers have been circulating behind the scenes that present a different image. His admirers are in shock when he confronts the rumors directly at the age of 67. For how long has he been keeping this a secret? For what reason did he decide to confess now? Be patient, for his confession alters the course of events. Advancements in music at the age of 67. Most musicians can only dream of Vince Gill's success, but what's truly amazing is that he's still improving after all these years. You'd think he'd be content to relax and enjoy life after becoming a household figure in country music and earning 22 Grammys, wouldn't you? However, he persists in challenging himself, maturing, and discovering fresh approaches to crafting authentic music. And if you were to ask him directly, he would tell you that he is now penning his most profound musical compositions. The ones with the greatest weight, not the ones that sell the most copies or receive the most airplay on the radio. That, after all, is the point of music, right? He is not one to follow fads. Not aiming to recreate earlier achievements. All he's doing is being genuine when he writes. Vince now uses a totally different strategy while creating songs than he did in his early years. He has no business passing judgment or assigning blame. He is content to only observe. People go through life's ups and downs, and he wants to record those times without passing judgment. That's somewhat different from the typical approach of writing popular songs, isn't it? The majority of individuals strive to adhere to a formula, but Vince? He has more knowledge. He's been around for a while, so he knows that composing songs isn't about cramming in meaningless words. Sitting quietly with a concept and giving it room to grow is key. Writing without a solid concept is like trying to spin your wheels, as he has remarked previously. And, to be really honest, experience is the only way to gain that type of knowledge. In the same vein as his background, his partnerships are worth discussing. He's always been cooperative, but he's been more selective about his collaborators as of late. Plus, it's not enough to simply choose famous people, you also need to collaborate with individuals who can provide something new and interesting. Through his work with Kelly Clarkson, the Eagles, and traditional country performers, he has dabbled in a wide variety of musical styles. Plus, he isn't concerned in receiving praise, which is the finest part. He was dead serious when he remarked that true magic occurs when attention isn't focused on who receives credit. He is one of the most in-demand country music collaborators only because of that mentality. This modesty is something he applies to every endeavor. And it is unusual in a field where egos often overshadow musical quality. But the most intriguing thing is how his sound has changed throughout the years. Though he has never wavered from classic country music, he is cognizant of the fact that styles come and go with the passing of generations. And unlike other artists, he welcomes the change instead of resisting it. The traditional qualities that define country music are still there in his songs. But he's receptive to other styles, influences, and auditory experiences. Even though he's 67 years old, he's showing no signs of slowing down. Because of his involvement with the Grand Ole Opry, he feels a stronger connection to his heritage than before. Every time he writes a song, he plays it through his mind to hear how it would sound on that illustrious stage. And that is the anchor that keeps him steady. In his life, he is always changing and growing. Consistently evolving, although fundamentally remains the same Vince Gill who first became enamored with music in the past. He is a legend because of that. We have reached the final segment of this video. Much obliged for your time. Like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this one if you liked it. If you would want to see more exciting stories, you should watch the video that appears on your screen.